Hello and welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's new comic book day reading recommendations. Every Wednesday, new comic books come out. We've got a couple brand new books, but let's get started with what you've got, A Returning Champion.
Yeah, so my pick this week is Absolute Green Lantern issue 4. And if you couldn't tell from this cover of this issue, we get kind of a bit of a showdown between Joe and Evan Sur. So I know for some people this book, compared to like some of the other Absolute books, has been kind of moving at like a slower pace. Like we're kind of like, there's a lot of kind of like back and forth in the timeline of like what happened to cause some of the events that we're seeing in the current point. And this issue goes a long way to kind of like explaining all that. We kind of find out like, how does Joe like get the lantern powers? Like what happened to Evergreen? We also we get more of an idea of like what Evan Sur's whole deal is, like why he's here, why he's doing what he's doing to the people in the town. Yeah. There's some like very like you get some name drops for some things that like if you're familiar with Green Lantern, you're very familiar with, like some certain like planets or like peoples get named in like different ways than you might expect. But then there's also like they even start to play with like, but they're playing with a lot with the names of like what these things are, what they mean. Like even like Evan Sur, this is kind of implying like, oh, that's not really his name, that's like his title.
Right, yeah.
But even then like, so like, okay, but what does that then mean? Like what does Evan, because like he starts listing out these other titles and it's just like, okay, so this is that. So it's a lot of, again, it's the like, for every question answer, 2 questions pop up.
Correct.
But they're also like very interesting questions. Like we were talking about before, there's a lot of the Absolute books have been kind of like starting to like bleed over into each other a little mention of this here or there. And there's like 2 Superman references in this book. One is like very obvious, and there's another one that's like, oh, okay, what does that mean? That's got some very interesting implications there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then cutting between this is, so like we've got like the bit in the past where Joe and Evan Sur are like talking, and then in the present where Joe and Hal are having kind of a conversation, kind of a fight. Like they both aren't really like sure how to use their powers yet.
Yeah.
But there's definitely like, there's more going on than we've still seen yet. Like there's like some blaming of each other for how things went down. And it's interesting because these takes on these characters, it's which we say this a lot with the Absolute and Ultimate books, where like they're very different but very same at the same. Like there's a moment where like you think Hal's going to make this like very rash decision in like kind of like the flashback, and then like he's able to like kind of like take account of the situation and be like, oh wait, no, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
Like he's able to like keep this like kind of like cool head, and it kind of like shows you like, oh yeah, this is like the Hal that could like be this hero. Like this is the Hal that could have been like a Green Lantern in another life kind of thing, instead of like whatever he's kind of turning into here.
Yep.
And then at the same time we see with Joe, like she's like kind of making some of these rash decisions. Like some of them seem like a good idea, some of them don't seem like a good idea, some have consequences greater than others, and how those consequences are going to like play out. Because like once you kind of like see like how things are really starting to go down, just like, oh, okay, that's like there might be like a bigger thing going on here, especially in terms of like what the potential threats might be, including one that shows up at the end of this issue. I love when Ewing gets to write evil like corporate businessman people.
Yes,
like
yes.
His stuff with Dario Ager in both Immortal Hulk and Immortal Thor is always super fun. So that he's getting to like have like another kind of character like that show up. I'm very excited to see what they do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
There.
When you were telling me before I read it that there were Superman references, I was thinking that might be somebody else.
No, yeah.
So it was kind of a fun surprise.
Yeah, no, so that was super exciting. I know another thing is like Lindsay's art on here, like some people are kind of hit and miss with it, like, and I get that. I think for me they're doing a really good job of like capturing this like very like uncomfortable mood.
Yes.
Yeah, like this like everything about Evan Sur like is simultaneously like weird and unsettling, but there's also points where it's just like, no, like he seems fine. Like he like doesn't seem like he's like trying to be like harmful or threatening. He's just like comes across that way sometimes just because he's got this like weird intimidating presence.
Yep.
But no, I think like, and the little bit of action we get here, I think he's got like a good handle on that. Some of his little character moments are really good. Like I was talking about this with one of our regulars last week, where part of the thing is like his art is good, but when you've got like people like Dragoda Rodriguez doing their stuff, like, which is some of like the best out there, like even stuff that's like pretty good, just like doesn't quite measure up. But again, I'm really enjoying his stuff on here. I think like the farther in we get, the more we get into kind of like some of the more like cosmic horror and action aspects of it that he's really going to be able to cut loose.
Yeah, I think that there is a reason for this. I would say, I think if they just cranked up the color saturation just a little bit, but I think they're going for bleak right now.
Yeah. But
as a flip through on the book, if you're not kind of, really diving in and getting it, it can seem a little, I don't know, washed out maybe.
Yeah,
but I think that's kind of what they're going for.
Yeah, there's a certain like mutedness to it.
Yeah, because of what's happening right now. But color's obviously going to end up being a big thing. And we start getting some more of that at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, because you can see there's points where the color gets emphasized, and it's a very nice contrast against some of the more like muted.
Yep.
That I think like the further in we're getting, the more like they're kind of like striking that balance, and I'm really enjoying that about the book. Like it's just kind of like a fun way to like, as like these characters become more enmeshed in this like weird, strange world, so too does like the color palette reflect that.
Correct. Yeah.
And I really like that when you can like actually use like the form to like emphasize something about the story.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm very much enjoying this. This is definitely. I mean, again, I love all the Absolute books. I know again, like this isn't some people's favorite. It's definitely like moving up there for me in terms of like each issue. It's like a little more to love for me.
Yeah.
But no, especially after this issue, now that we know as much as we do, it's like, oh, okay, now I really want to know what happens next. Because like there's just so much kind of like just waging under the surface that you can't wait to get to.
Mm-hmm.
But no, so that's our returning champ. We got, like you said, some number ones. So
yeah, speaking of waiting, I went with Wolverines and Deadpool's plural, number 1. So I haven't honestly been keeping up a ton with either Wolverine or Deadpool in their individual books. Mm-hmm. I've been reading more of like the Laura Kinney stuff lately. Mm-hmm. But enough has happened. But I've been in touch with Deadpool recently enough to understand exactly what's going on here. I was reading that, the Dugan run, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, we are dropped into this story with a couple parents who are in a remote village that are trying to stop creatures or people, or we're not entirely sure, from coming into their home, and it does not end well. And the Wolverines show up to investigate. And then you cut to Deadpool and Daughters LLC, and Deadpool is planning on teaming up with the Wolverines. And he's doing it because he's very excited to have the crossover, and he wants to have, the team up and all of that. Mm-hmm. So Ziegler's writing, Ziegler's writing this book, and the banter is on point.
Oh, dude is super strong when it comes to dialogue.
Yeah, there is a lot of dialogue in here, though. So, but I always like it when the Deadpool writers take shots at themselves as the writers, like there's a point in here where Deadpool says like the writer went down a wiki hole or something, and they're like, what are you talking about? So it's funny. But yeah, and I enjoyed the art. For me, I think I just the dynamic in here of the father-daughter thing was really kind of cool, and to see how different those approaches are. And granted, like Wolverine and Wolverine have two totally different kind of they have a different dynamic than Deadpool and Daughter.
Yeah,
but,
and they've also just been, at least like with Laura versus Ellie, like she's been doing this way longer. Like,
well, yeah, and Ellie's a kid still, so, you know. But yeah, so it's interesting. They do talk right away about how, you know, Deadpool's got kind of a bigger group of people that are around him, or allies, I guess would maybe be a better way to put it. And it's just him and Ellie. They specifically talk about like, no, this book's got to be just about the team up, so you can't come. Yeah. So yeah, it was really interesting. And then at the end of the book, it's who I thought it was going to be. I mean, you know, maybe it being obvious will end up being kind of the twist. But so we get a good classic bad guy is doing something nefarious.
I'm kind of curious. I want to see quick.
Yeah, last page.
Oh, yep, that makes sense.
Yep. So, you know, I don't think that they're going for anything terribly deep. It's not going to have a massive impact on, say, you know, 616 lore going forward or anything like that. But it's a fun book. If you like stabbity, jokety,
Stab.
this is a good one. And the art is really on point. It's great. So, yeah, I thought it was really good. Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. A lot of the stuff that I've been reading has been deep, you know? So it's a nice little respite from all these heavy plot lines. And, you know, Hulk is dark, Thor is dark, the Absolute books are all dark, the Ultimate books are all bleak, you know? Like nothing's going well for a lot of the heroes right now. So to have a joke where, you know, Wade's just making cracks about, you know, oh, well, don't worry about it. We'll do our costume change on the page turn. Like, you know, it's kind of a fun little escape. Yeah. And for those of you that would like that escape more on the DC side, Gotham City Sirens #1 comes out this week too. So if you prefer Harley over Deadpool as your kind of escapist, breaking the fourth wall kind of thing, then that's an option for you too. All right. So speaking of bleak, I'm not going to lie. I thought the last volume of this title was
meh.
Yeah, I mean, when you got a big writer on there, I was so excited. Maybe I just got my hopes up too high. But it just didn't really do it for me.
But speaking of big writers and getting your hopes up too high, but them being met this time.
Correct. This one did it.
We got Captain America #1, start of a new volume here by Chip Zdarsky and Valerio Schiti, who I like. I'll be honest, like part of the main reason I checked this out is because like I love Schiti's art. Like anything they've done, whether it's some of the X-Men stuff they've done, Gods, I'd like always love it, and does not disappoint here.
No, it's great, and it fits Captain America really well. So there's a point at which Cap has got to do a motorcycle chase, and it was awesome. Like it just, well, that was timely. A motorcycle just went roaring by. It just looked really good. Now, I will say that we're jumping into Cap's timeline here much further back than I thought. And it'll be interesting to see, is Chip going to have this play out in the, present tense for the 616 universe? Because it certainly could with what we're doing here.
The way from what I understand what he's kind of like said in interviews is that this first arc, this first arc is taking place like basically a week after he's been thought out. Like this is very much Steve new to the world around him. Like everything's just kind of like this kind of new experience. There's a bit where there's like an ad for like a phone, like a smartphone. And it like he's just kind of passively sitting there just being like, what's happening here? But like I think the plan is after this that it's going to like kind of like pull back into like modern day, and like it's going to be him dealing with the repercussions of this.
That would track, right? And that's also kind of in line with, I think, kind of the way that Zdarsky likes to do things. So I'm really excited. The creative team combination on this book was great. Some great variant covers this week too. But the cover A is awesome. It's so good. I'm really excited. It's going to be interesting to see how Zdarsky writes Cap as that fresh out of the ice, still naive about the modern world, his values, are going to have to kind of adjust on a few things. It's going to be interesting to see.
Well, because we get here, like, since he's just fresh out, like, obviously Iron Man's just like, oh, hey, you should join the Avengers. My boss, Tony Stark.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. Which also, by the by, I think Skeety actually, like, did a decent chunk of Dan Slott's run on Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
But boy, howdy, is this probably, like, because every time, like, because whenever artists do, like, kind of Iron Man's classic armor, sometimes they just do it as is. Sometimes they kind of, like, try and update it to make it look kind of more like modern. Like, this is probably one of my favorite versions of, like, kind of like updating it. Like, it very much still keeps that same basic, like, shape and silhouette of the original, like everything with even, like, kind of like the points on the mask, but, like, still, like, has these little touches to, like, make it feel more like how you'd see, like, a modern, very, like, techie version of Iron Man. Like, it's such a, like, cool way to it, and there's just little touches, like the way that like the little ear, like the wings on the head look, everything has these little touches that are just super cool.
Yeah, and I was looking at there are some scenes where you've got I don't know, the anatomy of the superhero being kind of really shown, and the figure drawing and everything is just so good in this. It just, like, the sense of, like, mass, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it just feels like it's a cartoon, and that can be cool, and sometimes it feels like they're going for, like, hyper realistic, and so you're not really dealing a lot with lines. It's just kind of more color on the page. But this is kind of, it's got, like, modern classic comic book art, I would kind of call it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It does. It does something that I think not the previous run, but the run before, Canero on the art did a really good job of, like, because with a Cap comic, you kind of want this, like, nice combination of, like, superhero, but also, like, something that just feels like a Cap on the street, but also, like, some espionage stuff. Like, because like Cap can fit into all these different kind of molds as a character. Like, there's just a certain versatility to him that way. And already this run is taking advantage of it a lot, because, as I was kind of saying before, so, like, the Avengers one, but he's just like, I don't really, like, I'm a superhero, sure, but also, like, my whole world for, like, the last couple of years has been being a soldier, so, like, I want to, like, kind of, like, go figure that out.
Well, he flat out says, I know that it's been years for you, but for me it's been days.
Yeah, like, I
still think
as
an enlisted man.
I saw my best friend die a week ago. I'm still not over that. Like, so,
which I think is one of the great things about Cap, right? That's just kind of one of the things that Marvel in the comics and, to an extent in the movies has really leaned into well, is like, it wouldn't be easy to just get over it. And Stan Lee was doing that stuff early on with the Silver Age Cap, and because he was, bemoaning everything.
Well, and the interesting thing there is, like, in the context of, like, when he originally comes back in the 60s, it's been, like, 20 years. So, like, everyone he knows, as long as they, like, did survive the war, is still around. Like, they're older. Old, Whereas here now, it's just, like, just because of how the sliding time scale works, is you just hit a point where, like, no one you would have known would be alive. Like, there's people whose grandkids might be dead. Like,
right.
It's like,
and for sure, absolutely.
And so, like, kind of really leaning into that, and they do a lot of that with this issue of, like, leaning into the notion of, like, very much, like, what it means to, like, be Captain America born into the 21st century, because along with the Cap stuff, there's also, we get some introduction to a new character, and, like, kind of, like, what sets them on their path to, like, kind of maybe following Cap's footsteps.
Well, and there again, I'm kind of wondering if you didn't, hit the nail on the head with, this is starting there, but, are we in the second arc, are we going to end up having the repercussions of that showing up? Because it would make sense with a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. And so it's just a matter of then the timeline of everything. But all right, well, so we obviously really enjoyed all of these books. What else did you have on your list today that didn't quite make it to the table, but really enjoyed?
Funny enough, another Ewing book almost made it up here. The final issue of Immortal Thor issue 25 came out today. And it's a very, like, fun, if not also kind of, like, dark end to this part of his saga. But don't worry, because he'll be coming back. I'm trying to remember if it's this month or next. I think it's next month with the Mortal Thor issue 1.
Yeah.
They were soliciting it as just like Thor issue 1, but I believe that they've officially announced like it's going to be called Mortal Thor now.
Sure.
Which, once you like kind of like get there and find out like why that's the case, it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be a little different.
Yeah, well, you knew that it was going to that there was a plan all along, right? I mean, you don't have such an accomplished writer who got so much acclaim from their peers, even on Immortal Hulk, and not have a really good plan.
And I'm super excited for it, especially because Pascal Ferry is coming on for art, and he's just one of those artists that anytime he kind of hops on a book, I always kind of want to check it out. I loved his run on the most recent Doctor Strange series. It was super good.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that's good. A couple DC things, Resurrection Man and Secret Six are both really fun this week. What about you?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Gotham City Sirens. It's an interesting week because this is maybe the lightest week that we've had in here as far as just raw number of titles, but there's been so much good stuff. So it's...
Yeah, there's a couple big X books this week. I know that
there's the Hellfire
Gala one shot.
Yeah, it's not the Gala though. It's like a remembrance.
Yeah. There's that, and then the new issue of the main X-Men book. Because I know they're going by the solicits, they're building up to there's going to be some kind of like big event they're doing this fall.
Yeah.
So between like some of that, I think potentially some of the Miss Marvel stuff they'll be doing in the giant size one shots is going to connect into that.
Oh, well, that would track.
So like the X-Men are definitely building to like something big happening.
Yeah. So. Well, and I know. Yeah. So I know that they're doing kind of a relaunch on creative teams on a number of those books. So we'll see where that ends up. But a bunch of good stuff. I wanted to take a moment to thank everybody who showed up out at the convention at the River Hills Mall. It was an amazing turnout. Whenever you do a first show with organizers, you're never quite sure what you're going to end up getting. So we kind of went into that, playing it safe, I guess you could say. But we're very excited about how it all turned out. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to work out an agreement for next year as well. I heard that all the vendors were really impressed, not only with the show, but also the community and everybody who showed up and supported it. So thank you very much for getting out and doing that. It was a really good weekend to be inside and enjoy that air conditioning. So
and the crazy thing is because you worked Saturday, I worked Sunday. And I know Sunday was kind of like the small of the 2 days, which is kind of what you expect.
Yeah.
But the place was still packed. Like every booth was like constantly had people coming to it, ours included. Like just people constantly coming through. Like people from other booths like going up and talking with each other. Yeah. I can't even imagine how crazy must have been on Saturday.
Yeah, and the organizer told me very early on that they actively try to make sure that there's a good balance. So you don't end up with too many 3D print or, craft artist kind of things. You don't end up with too many comic book booths, with too many toy booths, so that it feels like it's just one kind of show. So I felt like the balance was really good.
The balance is really good. Some of those toy booths, though, they were calling to me. The Siren song was real.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Ooh, I'm happy I have some level of self-restraint.
Yeah, and we're tied to the booth for part of that time too, so that it just made it tough. I was so busy talking to everybody, I hardly got a chance to go look at the booths at all. In fact, it wasn't until Ryan and I were leaving for the evening in our 1 hour coverage before we came back to tidy everything up was there before I got much of a chance to look at anything. So, all right. Well, like we said at the beginning, new comic books come out every Wednesday, and next week will be no exception. I've already seen the invoices because the holiday this week, they're getting everything out early. So it's looking like a good week again next week. Be sure to follow, subscribe, comment, share, and stop into your local comic shop. Hopefully that's up. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, also speaking of subscription, because I've had a lot of people asking about this beforehand. I didn't mention last week because they didn't update the system yet, but they have updated. Now, Deadpool Batman is available for pre-order for those who want.
It's going to be massive.
It's going to be wild because, it's not just because the main story is Deadpool and Batman, but they're also going to have a couple backup stories. You're going to have Green Arrow and Daredevil,
Mm-hmm.
Captain America and Wonder Woman, Jeff the Land Shark and Crypto the Wonder Dog.
Oh.
Oh yeah, no, they're, and that's just for that. Obviously we've got Batman Deadpool coming in November to look forward to. They've implied that they've got other plans to do other crossover stuff. So, but yeah, if you're wanting to get signed up for that or any specific variant or anything like that, let us know. We can finally get you down for it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we will be back next week with next week's picks.
Mm-hmm.
And until then, enjoy the reading.
So, sorry, I just had a brain fart.
From the top.
Yeah, sure.